All right, welcome back everyone for another deep dive into the world of crypto. This time, we're taking a look at all the big stories from December 2024. Lots going on as always, but
It
uh,
always is.
yeah, we've got some news snippets and some AI-generated insights
Okay.
to try to help us make sense of everything. What's really going on?
Yeah.
What are the trends we need to be paying attention to? And what do they mean for the future?
That's the big question, right? The future. It's always what everyone wants to know.
Well, especially in the crypto space.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, things move so quickly here.
It does feel like every week there's some new headline
Right.
that completely changes the game.
It feels like dog years, doesn't it? It's like 7 years for every 1 year in the real world.
Yeah.
The pace of innovation is just incredible.
So let's talk about one of the things that just doesn't seem to be going away. Volatility.
Yeah, that's the word, isn't it? Volatility.
Ethereum dipped below $3,900 this month, which, I mean, for those of us who've been following it for a while,
Right.
seems like, wow, that's a big drop.
Yeah.
But then again,
Yeah.
I feel like that's just par for the course in crypto.
You almost get used to the roller coaster, right?
Right.
But then here's the thing. You've got analysts predicting it could hit $5,000
At the beginning of next year.
at the beginning of next year. Exactly.
I mean, what do you make of that? How do you reconcile those two things?
I think it speaks to the underlying potential that so many people see in Ethereum.
Okay.
Like, despite these dips, despite the volatility, there's a belief in the long-term value.
So almost like
Yeah.
it's not even about the price
Yeah.
at any given moment.
It's almost like, yeah, it's not about timing the market perfectly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the trajectory.
That underlying value.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then, it's not just about the price of any one coin, right?
Yeah.
We're also seeing some really interesting growth in terms of the number of people who are actually using cryptocurrency.
That's right.
In December, we hit a record high, 18.7 million daily active users
Globally, worldwide.
worldwide. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. That suggests that it's not just a niche thing anymore, right?
Right. Exactly.
That's what's really exciting. It's starting to become mainstream.
Yeah. I mean, is this the tipping point? Are we seeing mainstream adoption finally happening?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but it certainly feels like we're getting closer.
Yeah.
More users, that means more demand,
Right.
potentially higher prices.
Mhm.
But it puts pressure on the technology to keep up, to scale.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It'll be really interesting to see how things evolve.
Okay. Now, I want to dive into some specifics. 'Cause,
Yeah.
we can talk about the overall trends and the big picture.
Right.
But there's some really interesting stories
Mm-hmm.
about specific coins this month. One that caught my eye was Hyperfun,
Hyper fun, yes.
which I'm not going to lie, the name alone kind of grabbed me, right?
It's catchy, isn't it?
It's catchy. But beyond the name, it saw some pretty remarkable growth this month.
HFUN?
Yeah. HFUN, the ticker symbol.
Market value went over $118 million
Wow.
and had a 24-hour increase at one point of over 78%.
Now, that's what I call a good day.
Right. So, I mean, what's the story there? Is this a sign of some bigger trend, or is this just kind of like a...
It's a great question. And it's one that, honestly, every investor wants the answer to.
Yeah.
Is this a fluke? Is this the next big thing?
Right.
You look at those numbers, 78% in a day. It's easy to get swept up in the hype.
Yeah, FOMO for sure.
But I always caution people, you got to dig deeper. Look beyond the price action.
Okay.
What's the underlying technology? What's the team behind it?
Yeah, that makes...
What's the real world use case?
So not just like, is it a funny name or a cool logo, but like,
Yeah.
is there actual substance to it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Does it solve a problem? Does it meet a need?
Okay, that's a really good point. And then another one, Bluefin. BLUE.
Yes, Bluefin, another
Very
interesting
cool.
one. Also saw a significant jump. Broke through $0.48.
Hmm?
45.7% daily increase.
Not quite as dramatic as Hyperfun,
Right.
but still very impressive.
Very impressive. So, I mean, are these kinds of jumps just like, are we just going to see this all the time now?
I'd love to say yes, but probably not.
Okay.
I mean, these are outliers. These are the stories that grab the headlines.
Right.
But the reality is most coins don't see this kind of explosive growth.
Right.
It's important to remember that.
So, for our listeners out there, don't expect to get rich quick.
Don't mortgage your house to buy Hyperfun just because it had a good day.
Exactly. Exactly. Do your research.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's shift gears a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and talk about the big players institutional investors.
Right, the whales.
Yeah, the whales. It's
Yeah,
the ones who can really move the market.
absolutely.
Um, Grayscale made a pretty big move this month. Transferred about 601 Bitcoin.
To an unknown address.
Yeah, to an unknown address, which always, like, raises eyebrows.
Right, a little bit mysterious, isn't it?
It's like, what are they up to? $60 million worth of Bitcoin.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah. So, I mean, is this something that everyday investors should even be paying attention to?
I think it's always worth paying attention to what the big players are doing,
Okay.
because often they have access to information and insights that the rest of us don't.
So it could be a signal of something bigger to come.
Exactly. It's like trying to read the tea leaves a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then another interesting development, Van Eck came out with some predictions for 2025.
Oh, yeah, their outlook report.
Yeah, they're saying that they expect approval of a Solana ETF, so SOL, and staking options for Ethereum ETFs.
No, that would be a game changer.
Yeah. I mean, ETFs, for those who aren't familiar, exchange-traded funds.
Basically a way to invest in a basket of assets. So instead of buying individual coins,
Right.
you can buy shares of an ETF that tracks, say, the price of Ethereum.
Yeah. Okay, so what would that mean for the average investor if these predictions come true?
Well, I think it would mean greater accessibility.
How?
It would be easier for people to get exposure to crypto
Yeah.
because ETFs are traded on traditional stock exchanges.
Right.
So you wouldn't need to set up a separate crypto wallet or anything like that.
Interesting. Okay.
And potentially it could lead to more institutional investment.
Okay, and that's usually a good sign, right?
Typically, yes. When you see institutions coming in, it often signals increased confidence in the market.
Okay, so potentially some positive signs for the crypto space coming out of these predictions.
Potentially, yes.
Hmm.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Okay, so we've talked about coins, we've talked about big players, but there's one area that I think is just like exploding right now.
Oh, yeah. Which one's that?
Gaming and the metaverse.
Ah, the metaverse. Everyone's talking about the metaverse.
Right, it feels like that's where so much of the energy and innovation is happening.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Gamers are already used to digital assets. They understand virtual economies.
Yeah, it's like a natural fit.
So bringing crypto into that world, it's almost like a no-brainer.
Yeah. So we saw a couple of really interesting stories this month in that space. Yeah. Neon Machine, which is a blockchain game studio.
Okay, I've heard of them.
They just appointed Ken Rosman, former Microsoft executive,
Oh, wow.
as their CEO.
So they're bringing in some serious talent.
Yeah, some serious heavy hitters.
That tells me they're playing for the long game.
Yeah, and they're serious about making a big impact.
Absolutely.
And then Hyperliquid, which is a token for a metaverse project.
Okay.
Its market value has now surpassed $40 million.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's your take on all of this? Is this just hype? Or is there something really, like, fundamentally transformative happening here?
I think it's a bit of both. There's definitely a hype. The metaverse is still very much in its early stages.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do think there's something really powerful happening here.
Yeah.
You've got this convergence of gaming, crypto, and the metaverse.
Yeah.
And that's attracting a whole new generation of users, people who are comfortable with digital ownership, with virtual worlds.
Right.
And that could have a huge impact on the mainstream adoption of crypto.
So it's like a gateway drug, almost, into the broader crypto space.
In a way, yeah. It's a way for people to dip their toes in, to experiment, without having to fully understand the technical complexities of blockchain.
Right, because you don't even necessarily have to know that it's crypto to be using it.
Exactly. It just becomes part of the gaming experience.
Right, right. That's fascinating. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. What are some of the key takeaways for you from December?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that crypto is continuing to grow and evolve. We're seeing more users, more institutional interest, and some really exciting developments in areas like gaming and the metaverse.
Yeah, it feels like there's so much momentum and energy behind it.
Absolutely. And that energy is contagious.
Okay. Well, as we wrap up here, I always like to leave our listeners with a question, something to think about. What area of the crypto world is most exciting to you right now? Or maybe, what's most concerning, what are you going to be paying attention to in the coming months?
That's a great question. You know, for me, I'm really fascinated by the potential of decentralized finance, or DeFi. It's still early days, but I think it has the potential to revolutionize the way we think about financial services.
Okay, DeFi. Something to keep an eye on, for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about in our next deep dive.
Well, I can't wait. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time, happy investing.
And stay curious.